Hey everyone, it's Steven. Today I have the 2022 Cadillac CT4-V Blackwing. This is an all-new model for the 2022 model year that replaces the old Cadillac ATS-V, which is the smallest sedan in Cadillac's luxury sedan lineup. So this one is kind of competing with things like the RS3 from Audi, the M3, and the very popular AMG CLA series as well. But this one is kind of Cadillac's entry into the market and actually starts at just about $60,000, making it one of the cheaper entries into this market. And I personally think this is probably one of the best ones because it's a really nice track-ready performance vehicle for the $60,000 market. You have an $80,000 price tag on this one as tested. You can kind of see that there's some crazy carbon fiber stuff going along here. Just based on the front right here, you can already see you've got a nice carbon fiber splitter at the bottom of this car. That's like an extra $4,000, and there's also a carbon fiber rear spoiler, another like $5,000. So the price can very quickly skyrocket on this car, but at $60,000, this is truly one of the best track-capable vehicles at this price range. Another interesting thing about this car is that it's actually going to become quite a collector's edition item because Cadillac has declared in a statement that this is going to be their last hurrah for the internal combustion engine for their luxury sedans, essentially their performance sedans, the V engines. So you have this and the Cadillac CT5-V Blackwing, which has a really cool supercharged V8. A lot of people have really applauded that car for being an awesome race capable car. And this is kind of the last hurrah for them. So if you want to get a really nice internal combustion engine car, this is going to be the one you want to get. Under the hood of the 2022 CT4-V Blackwing, you've got a twin-turbo 3.6-liter V6, makes 472 horsepower and 445 pound-feet of torque. Pretty good numbers for such a small vehicle, right? You go 0 to 60 in about 3.9 seconds. That is extremely fast. Like I said, track-ready, essentially. The fuel economy does suffer a little bit. This one you've got 16 city, 24 highway for a combined of about 19 miles per gallon, so kind of average in its class, a little below average actually. And then you've also got a 10-speed automatic transmission as an option. That's a $2,000 option. Rear-wheel drive is the only option on the CT4-V Blackwing. So if you want to get all-wheel drive, you have to step down to the CT4-V, not the Blackwing model. And then you can get all-wheel drive on that one. But for this one, rear-wheel drive as it should be for a track-capable car like that. And then of course, you also have the 6-speed manual option for you driving enthusiasts out there. Now that we've covered the numbers, let's talk about the exterior of this vehicle. First thing I want to point out is this rift metallic color. This is a $650 option, and it actually is pretty easy to confuse with the no-cost option Summit White, but you can kind of see that this is a bit of an off-white. It's a bit of a beige color. I think in bright light, you can't really tell, but if you put this right next to a white car, you can really tell the difference there, and it actually looks pretty cool. I think it definitely sets it apart from the sea of white vehicles out there. So going into the front fascia here, like I said before, you've got some cool options here, including this carbon fiber front splitter. As you can see though, it is pretty low to the ground, and the previous owner of this car actually had a pretty big scratch the day I was supposed to pick this car up, unfortunately, so we couldn't get that repaired. But you've got some cool carbon fiber stuff on the sides here. This little side wing right here and the front splitter are only in that $4,000 carbon fiber option. So pretty cool. I think it looks very aggressive. It definitely sets the car apart from any other CT4-V Blackwings out there. And I don't know, the carbon fiber is definitely a neat look. Otherwise, pretty typical look. Again, the CT4-V, or the CT4 in general, is actually a brand new model for the 2022 model year. So you've got a few refreshed things on the outside. You've got some more sleeker headlights. You've got that little like cool teardrop look on the daytime or on the turn signals, which are full LED. And it looks pretty nice. You do have fully functional vents pretty much throughout the entire front fascia, bottom, side, and of course that grille. And overall, I think it's a really nice look. It looks similar to the Escalade, the new XT6, things like that. And I think Cadillac is doing a really good job with their front fascias, keeping it kind of modern. So yeah, moving along to the side profile now, you'll see that there's some pretty cool stuff on these sides to point out. First thing I want to talk about, obviously these very attention-grabbing 18-inch aluminum alloy wheels with a bronze finish. That is probably not my favorite option with this white color or the rift metallic color, but I do think it matches a little bit with the V logo essentially. I think it kind of has a neat contrast there. You also notice that this car has the $400 red brake caliper option. So the calipers have the V logo on it, looks pretty cool. Again, pretty obvious to tell that this is a CT4-V, but the Blackwing is a little bit harder to tell, right? Like if I saw this from far away, hard to tell if it's a Blackwing or just a V. Of course, the carbon fiber kind of gives it away. Otherwise, standard body lines on the side profile. Again, you've got that nice carbon fiber piece at the very bottom of the side profile, gives it a more menacing look. And I mean, I love that look, honestly. I think it looks really neat. Otherwise, side profile is pretty standard. One thing I don't like a lot is these buttons right here at the door handles. They don't have the typical proximity keyless entry thing. You actually have to press the button, which kind of weird in an $80,000 vehicle, right? And then moving on to the rear here, this part is probably one of my least favorite parts of the vehicle. I do think it looks a little weird, looks better in some of their larger vehicles, but again, you've got some more carbon fiber, right? This guy really wanted to deck this car out in carbon fiber. You see, like for an $80,000 price tag, he wanted to make sure the exterior matches that price tag, essentially. So this is a huge carbon fiber rear spoiler, looks really nice, and at least probably won't get damaged very easily. Otherwise, the rest of the rear is pretty standard. Actually, in this lighting, I think you can kind of tell a bit more the rift metallic color versus the white color. But yeah, otherwise pretty standard things. You've got your pretty typical badging. Again, CT4 and V, nothing that states that it's a Blackwing model. You come to the bottom here though, you've got this nice carbon fiber rear diffuser. Again, everything on this vehicle is pretty much carbon fiber. You've got quad exhaust pipes, that's pretty standard. Those are pretty nice in general. We can take a listen to how that sounds right now. Sounds pretty good for a 3.6 liter V6, right? This is a twin turbocharged engine, definitely doesn't give you the same volume as that supercharged V8 in the CT4-V Blackwing, but still sounds pretty good, I think, for daily driving. Last thing I want to cover in the rear here is going to be trunk space. So, opening the trunk, you've got a button at the bottom like that. No power trunk, which is kind of weird again in an $80,000 vehicle, but you've got about 10.7 cubic feet of cargo space. Probably one of the worst parts of this car. This is extremely below average in its class. You've got a lot more trunk space than some of the competitors, but again, it does actually look decent from the outside. So you're not going to be fitting too much stuff in it, but it should be fine for, you know, a small group of people or, you know, just a couple or something like that. All right, let's jump into the interior here. One thing I want to point out is that you can definitely see the beautiful off-white rift metallic color from the outside here, but going inside, like I said before, you do only have these buttons, no proximity keyless entry. You can go in here. I'm going to turn on the engine as soon as possible because it is very hot here, but you've got some nice startup animation there. You've got a pretty nice interior here. I don't think it's a standout. Again, it's very obvious that Cadillac cut costs with the interior materials to keep it in that $60,000 price range, which is a smart idea because, like I said, track ready for $60,000 is pretty awesome. One thing I want to mention, this media indexing always happens when I walk in. I don't really understand. I'm using the exact same phone. I don't know why it has to index every single time, but it's kind of annoying because you can't use these next track buttons until it is done indexing, which is kind of annoying. But you can play music, so kind of a weird thing. Let's talk about the steering wheel first then. So, not my favorite thing. These buttons here, the volume up and down, are, you know, in a fine spot, but this is your skip track. Why? Like, why is it not these? It's super strange, and this is next track, this is back, and like, it's just not easy to reach. Maybe my hands are just small, but it feels weird while you're driving, so personally not my favorite thing. You do have this really cool performance traction management system here. You can kind of see if I move it, you can go through wet, dry, sport, race 1, race 2, all these different settings here. And this is meant for tracking, essentially. So you can choose what sort of traction you want. Do you want more stability control? Do you want less? Things like that. The V button here is also the fun button, essentially. You have a customizable mode, so you can change whatever you want here. And the V mode here basically shows you that you can change all of these different steering feels. So steering feel, suspension, engine, things like that. And it's a very fun button to use. So I like keeping it in normal mode, honestly, for everyday driving, but otherwise this is a pretty cool thing for sport driving, essentially. So easy to access, I like it, it's fun, and like I said, customizable. Otherwise, you can use this button on the right hand of the steering wheel to kind of skip through different things here. Not much of this is configurable, so you probably noticed that this theme was changing before, so you can kind of link your driving mode to a few different themes. You've got sport. These are really slow animations, so definitely not the funnest thing, but it looks pretty cool, right? And then track is going to be a more futuristic one that, you know, shows you your boost, your, you know, things like that, and your RPMs are very clear up there. So I think sport probably looks the best. Touring is also pretty chill. That's what I keep it on normally, but pretty customizable, but it is slow. That's my biggest complaint, is going to be that these animations are pretty slow. But otherwise, going through these things, pretty typical things. You do have a performance tracker here, so you can see, you can you can time your laps and stuff like that, your G-force monitor, launch control. In order to use launch control, you have to change your performance traction management to a different mode. But otherwise, I just keep it on audio here. It's pretty cool. You can customize what shows up on the left-hand side, time, temperature, other things like your fuel economy, etc. But yeah, so this thing is pretty nice. You've got a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster that is standard across all of the V models. And you do have some carbon fiber here. You can see the number of the V Blackwing you have, which is pretty awesome. I think that's always a neat touch. One thing I wanted to mention on the door panels here, you can see that you actually can see the person who, I'll get a better shot of this, but you can see the person who actually created this car, which is pretty sweet. Very reminiscent of the AMG models. Otherwise, door panels are pretty standard, right? A lot of plastic material. So you've got some leather on the surfaces, and of course you have some nice contrast stitching there. But again, it's going to be hard touch plastic on a lot of the points that, you know, you would expect most cars to have plastic on. So again, $60,000 base price, they had to figure out a way to cut costs there. Zooming in right here, this is the AKG sound system. 14 speakers, not the greatest thing in the world. It does have surround sound and stuff like that, but definitely not my favorite sound system out there. It's a pretty hollow sound, so kind of similar to most sedans. I feel like most sedans have a more hollow sound, but it's fine. And then you've got some buttons on the side here. This is where the heads-up display controls would be, but unfortunately they are not there right now. And otherwise, your main infotainment display here is going to be an 8-inch infotainment display. It's a touchscreen, but 8 inches again is pretty small in today's world. Most people are, you know, using 12.3 inches and stuff like that, so definitely not going to be the best display out there. This is very similar to the other Chevy models, and I feel like they could have done more with this, especially in a luxury vehicle like this, but you know, like I said, they had to cut costs somewhere. The center control stack is pretty good. Your air conditioning controls, your climate controls are pretty good here. You have dual mode automatic climate control, as expected in something of this price tag. And it's pretty easy to use. All hard buttons, so no weird configuration in the infotainment display, which is awesome. You've got heated seats right here. You'd have another button for ventilated if we had that option, which I really did. I really wish we had in this California heat here. But yeah, otherwise you've got some lane departure warning, and you've got your park assist. You've got front and rear parking sensors, standard safety suite. You've got you know, pedestrian emergency braking. The rear braking has been really annoying because if you're reversing and it feels like you're about to hit something, even if you're really far away from it and you have no intention of hitting it, it will automatically slam on the brakes for you, but you can turn that off in the system, which I really need to do. Otherwise, this thing doesn't look that nice. It's a very typical shifter from GM. You've got 2 cup holders here, some other hard buttons here, and you can use this rotary dial to control things here, which is a nice option to have, but I think not too useful when this is actually really easy to use and very responsive. I'll kind of show you here that, you know, you can kind of zoom through these options really easily. You've got a nice home button here, so you can kind of go through the settings. And one thing that really impresses me is look at this, like, frame rate. Like, this is probably one of the smoothest, you know, configuration infotainment displays I've seen in a while. So definitely kudos to GM for giving us a really good infotainment display here. So small, but easy to use and very fast. So you wouldn't expect much more from a vehicle, I feel like, at this price tag, especially at this size. One thing I did want to show you guys here is going to be the performance data recorder, PDR. This one allows you to put in an SD card over on the left next to the heads-up display controls, and you can record and overlay like a cool little thing that shows you your RPMs, your speed, your 0 to 60 times, and it just kind of shows you like driving around, and you can kind of see all that sort of stuff. So that's a really cool option to have as well. And then the last thing I wanted to mention here is you do have a wireless charging pad and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capability. So that's pretty nice for this vehicle. The tech, that's definitely a big plus considering the rest of the tech in this car isn't going to be the most game-changing things. But yeah, pretty standard. Okay, let's talk about these seats really quick. So these are the performance bucket seats. You've got some pretty nice seats here. You can immediately see those red seat belts. I think they call them torch red, and I think those are a $400 option or something like that. But again, you know, kind of pricing everything at a little bit of extra money. But you've got this nice V logo on the headrest. The headrests look really nice. This is a nice bucket seat overall, very comfortable. And I do like these big plastic pieces here. I think they look really neat. And then kind of going along the side of here, you do have some what they call microfiber suede, basically Cadillac's version of Alcantara. You can kind of see it easily leaves fingerprints and stuff like that. And then I did want to mention this Blackwing thing on the side of the seats. One of the very, very few places in this whole vehicle that actually show you that this is a Blackwing and not just a normal CT4V. Otherwise, these seats are comfortable. I like them, no thigh extension, and it's not that adjustable. You can adjust a lot of things like the lumbar controls. Actually, I'll show you guys right here what happens when you adjust it. A little screen takes over your 8-inch infotainment display here. You can kind of see that it shows you that you can change it using these buttons here if you want to change the lumbar support or if you want to change your bolstering. So a lot of options there. I honestly never found an option that was that comfortable. I will say something about these seats is that overall they're pretty comfortable, but I had a hard time getting a good feel for the driver's seat personally. Like, you know, the seat that I'm in right now, it never felt that comfortable to me. So I don't really know what's up with that, but personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of these seats for a long car ride, but they're definitely fine. I think it was the bolstering really. The side bolsters right here are just a little too firm for my liking, and also just kind of strange. They never felt like they hugged me that much, even no matter how much I would push them in or keep them far out. Felt like I was always kind of hitting them with my elbow. All right, now let's hop into the rear seats here. Again, not going to be the most comfortable thing because this is quite a small sedan. Kind of see immediately that when I get inside, it's really not that cramped. I mean, you don't have the greatest leg room. Like, this is my normal seating position. Notice that cool V kind of embroidered in that seat back. You don't have pockets here. That is one really surprising thing. And you don't have climate controls here. So again, dual zone only for the front passenger. But yeah, it's an okay seating position. I think probably headroom is probably the thing that is the tightest in this area. I'll show you guys right here that, you know, my hair almost touches and I'm like 5'8". So you do have a nice little like bump here that kind of shows like, you know, your head, it does allow your head to have a bit more headroom, but again, you'll probably be brushing it a little bit if you're taller. Door panel is pretty standard, very similar to the front. You do have some nice soft touch material and leather and contrast stitching as well. You do have a small sunroof that is an actual $1,000 option, I believe. So you know, again, you have to pay for a lot of these small things, but overall, not a bad place to be. So how does it feel to drive the 2022 Cadillac CT4-V Blackwing? Well, to sum up really quickly, this car is incredible value, $60,000 and track ready with so much tech that relates to the track. I think that's the coolest part, is like, you've got the performance data recorder that is a $1,600 option, but very cool. You've also got the V modes, the performance traction management. There's just so many cool things in this vehicle that make it very track ready. And it's clear that Cadillac really wanted to show that they could compete with the best of them, right? The best of the German competitors, like the M3. That's kind of been the benchmark for that small luxury sedan in the tracking area, but this is a great competitor. Sounds great, is very capable, it's fast, pretty much has everything that you want. So I think Cadillac did a great job with this. GM should be very proud of themselves for what they've managed to accomplish with this vehicle. It really is a technological marvel. And you know, you still got the comfort niceties. I think the crazy thing is that this car is daily drivable. It really is. It's track-ready, daily drivable car. It's comfortable in touring mode. It's just the right amount of noise, and the exhaust sounds fantastic. You put it in, you know, you use your V mode however you want that to be. If you want it to be crazy firm steering, you know, the suspension, you can really firm that up as well. Yeah, you can really do whatever you want with this car, and it's very flexible, which is nice. One of the things I wanted to call out early on is, look at these red seat belts. It looks so cool, especially with the red marker for, you know, where the steering wheel is up. I think it looks awesome. It looks very track ready. It looks very fierce. The seats are pretty cool. You know, you've got the bucket seats with these plastic things. It looks pretty standard for a, you know, sporty car. But overall, I really like these features, and the carbon fiber everywhere. The interior, you guys might have noticed, doesn't have nearly as much carbon fiber as the outside does, but you know, that's to each their own, right? Everyone has their different opinions on how much carbon fiber they want. But yeah, I think the lack of interior niceties is kind of a thing that separates this from the M3, right? The M3 is going to be about $10,000 more for the base price, but you do get a lot more standard, nice equipment on the inside, right? You can tell the fit and finish on this really doesn't compete with some of the other German rivals out there. Speaking of tech, a few tech things I wanted to mention regarding this car is going to be the fact that they don't offer Cadillac's very famous Super Cruise on this vehicle, unfortunately. I guess they probably figure that if you're driving a performance car like this, you don't really want to use Super Cruise, but would have loved to test it out. I've heard so many great things about it in the new Escalade, but you know, it's something that isn't even offered in this vehicle. So if you really want to get that autonomous, hands-free driving, you'll have to get a different vehicle. I did also want to mention the magnetic ride control of the adaptive dampers. That is something that they added for this newly refreshed model, essentially. And it's pretty nice. It keeps this car comfortable in the touring mode, makes it extra fast and really firms up that suspension and stuff like that in the sport and track settings. And I mean, it's a really great feature that you can really tell the difference when you're driving this car. Let's quickly cover a few things that impact your driving experience. So ride quality first. Like I said, you've got that magnetic ride control, which is also just such a cool name, of course, but that thing really helps make this feel like a comfortable daily driver. That is one thing the ATS-V was not. Definitely not a comfortable daily driver, but this vehicle kind of brings you all of it. When you're in touring mode, super comfortable, very quiet. This vehicle definitely feels like a premium luxury sedan. I will say tire noise is pretty high for this vehicle. I think it's, you know, pretty low on the ground, and overall you're going to get a decent amount of road noise, but otherwise wind noise and stuff like that is surprisingly kept to quite a minimum. It really feels like a more luxury vehicle than you would think from a small Cadillac vehicle, right? The CT4, like the base vehicle, essentially, without any of the performance things, that MSRP is for about like $35,000, and it's still going to be a pretty quiet vehicle. Cadillac has definitely stepped up their game recently with their overhaul of a lot of their vehicles, like the CT4, the XT4, and the XT6 and stuff like that. So I think Cadillac has done a great job with that. And as expected from a small luxury performance track-ready car like this, you have immaculate handling. That is definitely what you expect, right? The RS3, every vehicle in this segment, especially such a small vehicle like this, you've got such superb handling. Cadillac has done such a good job with that. I really applaud GM for really refining the suspension and the ability for this car to corner. It is insane. The brakes feel strong, the acceleration is strong, throttle response is fantastic, and the shifts are super smooth. Like, everything is so refined about this driving experience of this car. And it's really a 10 out of 10 vehicle. Like, this car exceeds all expectations, and I think anyone would be happy with this vehicle. All right, I'm gonna put in V mode right here and give it a quick rev here. Let's see. Crazy fast. Crazy fast. I'm in some pretty pedestrian streets here, so definitely don't want to go too fast there. But you also might notice that that engine sound is a little artificial. They do pump in the engine sound to enhance the you know, when you're revving the car and stuff like that, which is, you know, a bit of a gimmick in my opinion. It sounds a little weird. It definitely has a very noticeable, like, fake sound to it, so I kind of don't like that, and I don't think there's a way to turn it off, unfortunately. But again, the vehicle sounds great. The true engine sound sounds amazing anyways, so yeah, revving it never ceases to put a smile on my face. So overall, what a great offering from Cadillac. It's really weird because people think of Cadillac, they think of the Escalade, right? That's going to be their most iconic car. And you know, some of the more enthusiasts out there like have definitely kept an eye on the ATS-V and stuff like that, right? Huge performance vehicle that a lot of enthusiasts love. And I mean, kind of living up to that name, this CT4-V Blackwing has been so much fun. Definitely exceeded my expectations for what a vehicle could do, especially at this price tag, right? That's the thing, $60,000, and still able to, you know, kind of compete with the very best, like the M3. The new RS3 is going to be a huge competitor for this. And I'm excited to see what Cadillac's going to do in the future with their EVs. That's going to be a really interesting thing. Like I said before, this is going to be the last hurrah from them for a internal combustion engine V Blackwing model, essentially. So get this car and the CT5-V Blackwing while you still can. Otherwise, I expect that these prices will go pretty high in the future when everything is electrified. So, appreciate you guys watching this review. I had so much fun with this car. If you want to check out some of my other reviews, you can click up here, subscribe down here, and otherwise I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Thanks everyone. Bye.